be fine. Okay, great. Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome. This is our first show and tell. Well, my first show and tell, that's for sure. Yeah, welcome everybody. We are going to talk to you about the design system. This design system has been pretty popular, not only in the Red Cross, but recently in the industry. It's becoming kind of like a popular topic. So we have decided to take this time today to tell you more about what we have been doing lately with the digital team, and explain to you, yeah, what's happening and what's been happening since the past 6 months, because we've been working hard on it since the past 6 months. So I think it's a good time to just stop, show you what we have, and just open the door of this wonderful world of the design system. So before I get into it, a little agenda. So first, we're going to introduce ourselves. We're going to tell you more about the context and what problem or problems we are trying to solve. We are not just doing this because we fancy it. There are a lot of problems we are trying to solve by doing this exercise, and we want to tell you more about those. We are going to explain briefly, or in detail actually, what is a design system, and then show you in particular what we have done ourselves, and do a little bit of a demo as well. So in terms of the people on this call, we have myself, I'm the delivery manager. We have Shafkat, who is the UX UI designer. He's been leading the operations on this project, so he will be the one doing most of the demo today. I'm gonna stop talking at some point. We have Julio, who is our front-end developer, and Ivana, another front-end developer, contractor actually, and she will be doing her last week, I think next week. So we have a few more days with her. We are making the most of it, and then Julio will be taking over until we have more people. Yes, so a few things before we start. So this is 45 minutes, and at the end we will have 10 minutes to go through questions. So we were thinking maybe when you have a question, and you will have some questions, I hope, write them down in the chat, and then at the end we will take 10 minutes to read through the questions and answer, rather than stopping every time and answering and spending too long like this. There is no silly question. This can be quite a complicated topic if you've never heard of it. So even if you have what you think is a silly question, please feel free to ask. As I said before, there are obviously our team on this call, and people like Harry, for example, who knows everything about the design system. But we also have people that I've never met, like Thomas, Jasmine, Sophie. So we have based this session not really knowing who would be there and what to cover and how far to go into the detail, etc. So if we are going into too much detail, you can say, hey, I'm completely lost, and we will try to make it more generic. But yeah, feel free to write down your questions and we will answer everything at the end. And last thing I wanted to mention, this is not a finished piece of work. We are still very much working on it at the moment. So when we do the demo, if you see anything that looks a bit odd, like lorem ipsum text and things not perfectly in place, this is normal, so bear with us. This is just a work in progress. Okay, so any questions so far or anything? I guess I haven't gone into too much detail, so I'm gonna crack on. So what is the problem we are trying to solve with the design system? Well, first of all, we have a lot of websites, not just one website. We have like 25, if not more now, websites. And we have apps, and we have, it's quite broad. And in terms of visual, there can be some inconsistencies on the websites. So we are trying to solve this main issue of visual inconsistency. But there is also an issue of accessibility. And in terms of accessibility, we are not 100% perfect. So with the design system, we're going to try and tackle this problem as well. Another thing we talk about, especially in the blog, if you haven't seen the blog, we published a blog on Medium a month ago. You can go and check it out. We talk about the importance of collaboration. And on this, I mean, for every project, collaboration is key. But for this project in particular, we really, really need needed and still need the collaboration between different teams. So service designers, content, marketing. We really want to make it a collaborative piece. So at the beginning, when we started, there was really a lack of collaboration. So we tried to fix this, and we are still obviously working in progress with this. But this is one of the issues we are trying to solve as well. Um, in terms of onboarding, when a new developer or a new designer joins the digital team, it can be quite difficult for them to know, because of such inconsistencies and visual differences, etc. It can be quite hard to know what is the actual truth in terms of what they should be building. And so it makes the onboarding quite laborious. And with this design system, we are creating what we call one source of truth, where everybody can go and see exactly what we are trying to do. And another point we added it there last minute, it's in terms of the way it was coded. It was done desktop first. And as you know, in the industry, it's always best to do mobile first. So yeah, quite a bit of things we are trying to fix or improve. I'm sure I've missed a few as well, such as budget and time spent, etc., etc. But in general, it's a project that is trying to tackle a few issues. So I am going to stop talking now, and I'm going to hand over to Shafkat, who is the UX designer, and he's going to tell you more about those visual inconsistencies, so you can really understand what we are trying to solve here. So Shafkat, I'm going to stop sharing, and if you want, actually I can continue sharing if you want.
No, that's fine. I will share my screen.
Okay, great. So before I continue, are there any questions that you have at the moment, or shall we just crack on?
All right.
Okay.
Hi, my name is Shafkat Mahmood, and I'm the user experience and user interface designer in the digital team. I have been working on the design system. And when we say that there are visual inconsistencies, what do we mean by that? As Ines mentioned, that we have more than 25 different websites. And these websites were developed by different designers and developers. They were working in different teams, and these were developed at different times as well. But the one common element is that they all belong to one organization, which is BRC. But when we look at them, we see there are many visual differences that are from brand point of view as well, and from user experience point of view as well. So for example, if we look at this website, which is for Little Heroes website, and the font usage is quite different to this one, which is for community reserves website, and the one we have for first aid champions as well. So the font is looking quite different on all these four websites. Another prominent difference is the card style, the card component that we're using on this website. It's basically center aligned text, and the one we have for on first aid champions, it is quite different. It's left aligned text, and the one we have on our wonderful walk of kindness page, the card styles are different. So you can see 2 or 3 different card styles here as well within one website. So these are some of the things that are not consistent. So for example, if you look at the button style that we have here, which is basically on this website, Little Heroes, the button style is we're using a specific red color. But when we go to this website, we are using a different button style, which is in gray color. And when we go to First Aid Champions website, we are using a button style, which is in teal color. I will show you the live examples on the website after I'm done with these screens. So There are inconsistent spacing as well, and a different grid is also used on these websites. So what do I mean by grid? For example, the content that we have placed inside this container. So this is placed in a wider container as compared to this one, which is quite narrow as well. So is the case with these two websites as well. If you look at them, these are basically visual differences, and a different grid is used on these pages as well. So I'll show you another element by using a button element. For example, if I go to this button, you see when I interact with this button, there's an animation which plays. And when I go to community reserves website, the button is quite different. The interaction is quite different here as well. The visual difference is also present there. But when we go to first aid champion website, we have a completely different style for the button. So the animation is also different. And when we go to wonderful walk of kindness, the color is also different for the button. So we have four different websites. They all belong to us, but we are using completely different elements on these websites. So these are some of the different little differences that we have on each page or each website or across our different products. But when we combine all of these little differences together, then they add to the bad user experience, and the users do not have confidence in our brand as well. So I will move to the next slide.
And before you continue, just to add, it's annoying for users, but also it's annoying for us internally to have so many different of the same element. We never know which one's, which one's which and which one is true or not true. So it's always thinking about the two sides, our helping ourselves and helping our users as well.
Yeah. So when we have so many differences, we have a question we can ask ourselves. So how can we solve all of these problems? So my answer would be that we need to have a design system in place to avoid all of these problems. Then a question comes to your mind: what is a design system? A design system is a collection of reusable components which are guided by clear standards that can be assembled together and built for any number of applications. So design system is used by designers and developers, and it's like a live bank of components where designers or developers can come, they can read about them, take guidance, and they can reuse those components in their products or applications. So it's quite useful asset that we will have if it gets in place. Another question comes to our mind, and it was also asked in our last call with the brand team earlier, that when we have brand guidelines and brand toolkit in place, why do we need a design system? Aren't they same? So our answer would be no, they're not exactly the same. Brand guidelines basically uh, look at the brand, how brand works, and mainly relates to colors, logos, and typography. And they also look at the tone of voice as well. So for example, I'll show you our brand toolkit that we have. It focuses on the tone of voice, which is basically human, direct, compassionate, and bold. And it also tells us that when and how we can use a specific logo, which font should we use, what are the different image styles, and what colors are available in our color palette. But it does not tell us how to use them for any specific element. So there comes the part of the design system. So design system tells us that, okay, use these specific fonts in these specific sizes for this specific purpose. So for example, if there is a button, brand guideline is not going to tell us that, okay, use red or green or black color for the button, but design system does. So design system adds another layer on top of brand guidelines. So there are some common grounds between brand guidelines and design system, but design system is much more complex and sits on top of that. So when we say that design present this example of a button. What do I mean by that? It means that in the design system, we have a button which has different states. Brand guidelines do not tell us that what happens when a user hovers their mouse on the button, what happens when the button is active or it is pressed or in focus state. So design system tells you all of this information, but brand guidelines don't do that. So there's a huge difference between these things where we can have this gap covered by having a design system in place. And once we have all of these elements in place, we can have consistency across all our products and application. So why do we need a design system? That is a very basic thing, and it would basically bring order to this chaos that we have across our different websites, and the inconsistencies, visual differences, user experience difference, and brand image difference on different websites. So it will bring an order to everything. Now I will give you a demo in Figma environment just by showing you what we've done so far, and how designers and developers can and they would benefit from this.
And if you do not know Figma, maybe Shafkat, you can explain quickly what Figma is.
Yes, I would do that.
Okay.
So Figma is a software which is mainly used by designers and developers as well. But designers use this to work collaboratively. They can sit in different teams. So like within, if we take the example of our organization, we have a number of different teams working in silos, but they can work online, they can collaborate on this together, and they can participate in this, and they can basically help each other. So the specific reason for this software is that we've structured this in a way that whenever a designer or developer joins the company, they would have this onboarding session, uh, and they would go through this Figma environment to understand how everything works within the digital team, or how do different teams collaborate together to work on same applications or products. So within this environment, in this file, we have a section which is getting started. So it will show the users that whatever we have available inside this design system, and it would give an introduction to design system as well. Since this is under progress and we are still developing, so we will be adding more screens and more content to these sections. So another section is based on the structure of our design system, which is atomic design. So I would quickly explain you what does atomic design is. So atomic design is a methodology for creating design systems, and there are 5 distinct levels in atomic design. So the smallest part or the basic unit of anything, which is atoms, and then when we combine 2 or 3 atoms together, then it becomes a molecule. And when we combine these molecules together, then it becomes an organism. And when different organisms are combined together, they form templates and pages. So in order to understand this properly, I would just give you an example. What we mean by atoms? So atoms are like any color, it could be a label, or it could be an input field or a button. So these are the smallest units of our system. So there are other atoms as well, but this is just to show you the example. So when we say how do molecules are made, so when we combine 2 or 3 different atoms, so for example, if this is an atom and this field is also another atom, when we combine 2 or 3 different atoms together, and then it creates a form. So it's a very basic element. Uh, when we combine different molecules together, then we have organisms. So for example, this is an organism combining 2 or 3 different fields, and it has a button as well. It has some text as well. Another form of organism could be this card component, which has an image, text, and some tags as well. So the and navigation could be another form of organisms. So when we combine all of these organisms together, then we have a page. So for example, navigation sits on top of the page. Then we have a hero component. We can have some text as well. We can have some card components. So when we combine all of these different organisms together, then we create a template. So this is a template page, and the different templates can have different pages for different sections. So this is how we will make our designers and developers understand how everything is structured within this design system. So we also have another section which basically guides and helps the user to how to use this specific system. So we are adding these guidelines in this section where we showing different examples. So how can different components be combined together for a desktop device or a tablet device or a mobile device, and how would a page would look with similar content on different devices. There's another section that would basically comprise of updates. For example, if we are adding any updates in this system, or if there is any change, we would inform our wider team through this section as well. So I will quickly show you the core components that we have inside our atom section. So we have typography. For example, in typography, we have number of fonts that we're using, and then we have different settings, like what are the settings for desktop and what are the settings for mobile, for a title, for H1. So how much space is between each line, and what is the letter spacing. All of these elements are defined in typography, but we are also defining that what should be the length of the line. For example, what is ideal for reading purposes, because we do not want the users to start writing longer lines, and which is not useful and not a good experience. So an ideal line length is an important thing when it comes to the typography as well. So we've added all the guidance in each sections. For example, for colors, when a specific color should be used. For example, if this is a color for error, or when do we use for warning, what do we use for success state. So all of these elements are defined in these sections. So we have number of different atomic level elements that we have defined here. So I would take an example of a form element, which is basically what happens. For example, if there is a checkbox, what happens when you roll over your mouse on checkbox? How do users recognize that this is interactable? And if you roll over this, it changes color. If you using a keyboard, if from an accessibility point of view, it gives you an indication. There's a signifier that yes, it can be interacted with. And if you click on this, it shows a checked state. So how does it look like in default state? How does it work? So all of these things are defined in this system as well. So if we go to the components, we have a number of different components inside our design system. So for example, if we look at the hero components, we have hero components for desktop, and then how do they look like on tablet or mobile. So we've defined all of these elements here. So I would also like to show you an example of card components. The example that I had given in the beginning, that there are some visual inconsistencies. So how can we get rid of these by having standardization in our card component style. So for example, if this is a card, this is how it looks on two column layout for desktop, and it could be for three column layout on desktop. And how does it look like without an image? So with image or without an image, the bottom part remains the same. So there is consistency. We do not want that if we do not have an image, the layout of the component changes. No, So these are basically linked together. So we have number of different cards for different purposes. For example, we have specific cards for story sections. We have specific cards for education and event sections as well. So all of these things have been defined and added into the system. So then we also have another area which we are adding in this environment, which is based. Yeah.
Because it's already 42 and we want to keep sometimes for question,
Okay.
maybe we can try and either ask if anybody has any questions so far, and
Uh, yeah, yeah, that's fine because then Julio can take it from here, and because he can
yes,
explain this section as well.
yeah,
So
because
that's fine.
we only have 15 minutes left, so I'm really conscious that we need at least 10 minutes for Julio to show his work too. Uh,
Okay.
is it okay to interrupt and just show a little bit of the website?
Yes, that's fine. Julio can take it over from here. Yeah.
Is that okay? Because I
Yeah.
didn't want you to go
Yeah.
into
Yeah. Yeah.
another.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
That's fine.
perfect. So now you have seen Figma. Julio is going to take over and he's going to show you basically what it looks like on the actual website that we have built.
Yep. Just before doing that, a few talks about, well, sorry, Shaka was showing you how it looks for the visual aspect. And that's why we use Figma. So that's software for designers so they can collaborate. It's like a SharePoint for designers. They can collaborate and build up. And that way developers will know the colors, the size, the grid, and how they should look. But we have the same issue with consistency on the code base. As they mentioned before, we go many different websites, and those different websites are different content management systems. So they run different. You will hear the words WordPress or Sitecore or different CMS, as we call them. And the issue is that this website has been built at different periods of time and by different people from many different agencies, many different developers that pass by. And the issue is they start changing. The code is never the same. And some websites have more features than others. So we try to do with the design system is to have a code base so everyone can go and see, okay, we have this feature, we can implement it, we can take it from here. And if we add a new one, everyone can see it. And if developers move on or leave, or we change agencies, as happened before, they can always have something, a base to check what has been agreed, how should work, what has been built. Some of the technology behind, I just put the list, NPM, React, SAS, Git, and Azure. We use most of these technologies on current websites on the records, but React is new. So React is a library, it's a JavaScript library. And what React allows us is to reuse components. So we can reuse components very easily, fast, and they're very flexible. Fast because they build quickly when we are developing, and they highlight warnings or potential issues on the code so we can prevent bugs and we can fix those before that happens. And flexible because it integrates with many systems. So you can go with WordPress, you can go with any different content management system that are out there. If not, we can still use the HTML and implement it using normal HTML, CSS code base. We try to implement this as we go. As they mentioned before, this is not a finished product. So if someone, normally the flow is, we have a requirement, the requirements are done, we need a new feature, like a gallery, an image gallery. So, okay, everyone decide what image gallery should look like, it should work like, and then it passes from designers into developers. At the moment, if we have a new feature like that, we go through and check what is built in the design system, and we implement it with the new guidelines. But we have so many websites, we don't have many resources, so we can't go now and change all the websites that we have to all look the same. So what we're doing is from now on, any new feature, we try to be consistent. If we go to fix a feature or a component in the website, we try to adapt it and fix it to be consistent with the design system. And we're going to take it like that as a new piece of work from now on. If we have to go back to previous work, that is something that we can do, but we will plan ahead in the future. I'm going to do a demo. This is the website. Anyone can go and have a look. We share it later, probably in the invitation, so everyone can access and provide feedback.
I will put it in the chat now as well. So
perfect. Thank you, Agnes. It's work in progress. So the idea is to have the documentation here. We have many of the documentation out of the website because we are working on the wording and how you should say and are you sure. It's a collaboration. So content editors and brand is always involved with us. So we say, okay, we got this. What do you think? How do you think about it? Come back to us and we update the website. Let me share. So this is the design system. As Figma is easy for designers to go to have a look, we know that having a website for anyone in the organization to go and have a look, especially for designers who when they're building or having an idea what kind of features that we have. So we have an overview of what the design system is. We got the atomic kind of structure that Shafka was talking about. So we got the core components are the small one, the models, and then the bigger components. So the core elements, sorry, the components, is like colors. So you need to use the colors. You can come straight here and say, okay, I need to use the red. These are the code that we use, the hex code and RGBA for the red, because we have many different websites and we have different shade of red and the British Red Cross. That's an inconsistency that we try to really remove and use the same red. It's our brand, it's what is out there, how people recognize us. So we have information about the colors, but at the same time, we do some documentation at the end of when to use a primary color, when to use a secondary color, and tints, and etc. And then I'm gonna show another ones. We don't have much time. So icons is another issue that we have across different websites. Now we're gonna use material design icons. This has been agreed between brand and content editors. So the icons, hopefully one day will be all consistent across different sites. Because we're using a library from Google, it's gonna be faster and they're gonna be easy to recognize. These are some of the icons. These are the ones that we mostly use across the site. The library of icons is huge, but we're just trying to narrow down and only provide the ones that we're currently using so people don't go crazy adding different kind of icon if there is no need for.
And using this library also means that when there is a need for a new icon, instead of doing it bespoke and spending time and thinking about what's the best icon, let's create it from scratch, we can just use this huge library and pick the best out of this. Am I right to say that, Julio?
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna show you, we see a lot of stuff that's visual, but behind this is all the code bits. So this is the buttons size. And if you go to the tab that's code, I can see the code for the button. I can format it to look nicely. So I can go and copy that, and click the button, and I can see how it interacts. So this is a primary default button. If I decide a secondary button, that's how it looks. This is how it interacts when I hover, when I click, or when I use the keyboard. Tertiary button. So then this way you can go and have a look and test before building it and have an idea what probably do you need. And if you're not sure which button you should use, it's fine because in the usage, we're gonna have documentation of when do you use one button, when you use the other one, different button types. I'm gonna do one more example.
Okay, and then we can take some questions.
Yeah, so the homepage here that Shaka was mentioning, this goes into template. So this is an image with different colors. So these are 3 heroes. Heroes is what we call to the big banners that we have on the website on the top. And as well, they have the code provided, so we can see the code to be used to create that banner and the different styles. So default looks like that. The white is with a white background and the button change color. So this is kind of developer side to know how this works. We're gonna add, of course, more documentation to this.
I think we have shown maybe the most important. Now we can maybe
so you can go and have a look. We have a lot of different components that you can go and test, like galleries and the things.
Exact. Okay, well, thank you very much, very much. I don't know why I sounded so French right now. Thank you very much. Thank you, Julio. And thank you, Shafkat, for this very nice demo. I see a lot of questions and we have 8 minutes. So the first question I see is from Anjali, and she says, well, fantastic work. Thank you so much. Curious on whether user testing has been taken into this so far, and if not, how we will factor user testing and Hotjar learning into optimizing design, etc. And B, A/B testing on things like CTAs, so we continually optimize. I will give you my answer, but then Julio and Shafkat, please tell me what you think. I think we are not doing a redesign. So technically, we are not really going to users and testing new features. We are not really reinventing the wheel, as we say. We are taking different wheels and making one that already exists, but a better wheel. So in this sense, no, we are not doing user testing because we are not building anything new. But we have been doing some user testing. Shafkat, maybe you can say more about that, which is more for our end users, so developers. When they go on the website, how do they interact with our design system, and does it actually work for developers? Is that correct, Shafkat?
Yes, yeah, we've done some research session with the help of Harry as well. Last week we did some tested with from some developers and designers from different organizations who were working on design system. So we got very good feedback as well, and we wanted to improve the information architecture of this design system. So it was from that point of view as well.
That point of view, yeah.
We would be definitely doing more testing around this as we develop. Yeah.
Exact. And when we go into improving our design, that will be a next phase. And of course, then we will take the user into consideration.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Does it make sense, Anjali?
Yeah, totally. And it totally makes sense from where you guys are at just now. I was thinking more like, because this is such great work, and as we get a bit more, how do I put it, mature in some of the digital marketing we put out, we might want to do like call to action testing and all that kind of cool stuff. So that is later down the stage. But thank you very much. That was really helpful.
Thank you. Stuart, is that a question that I can see, or just an answer to Anj?
I was going back to Ange to saying that we're looking into how we take feedback into the design system, and we'll be putting processes around that in the future.
Yes, actually, there is a new way of giving us feedback, which is launching next week. But I'm not going to say more about that here because there will be probably another show and tell about that. Does the web page design system only work on the internal network?
No, it's open.